If it is true that I have talent, I owe it, above everything else, to my beloved city, Vienna. In its soil is rooted my whole strength. In its air float the melodies which my ear has caught, my head has drunk in, and my hand has written down. Those words were once said by the great composer Johann Strauss, waltz king of Vienna and of the entire world. This is his story, and this is music. It was in Vienna, a light-hearted dancing city, that Johann Strauss was born on the 25th of October, 1825. That the boy Johann grew up to love music, no wonder. That love was shared by his country, his city, and his own family. For Johann's own father was a renowned composer, and his son couldn't help hearing his father's music echoing across the Ferdinand Bridge, sounding from the cafes, gardens, and the arcades. Music beckoning to the Viennese couples to forget tomorrow morning and dance tonight to the spellbinding waltz. When Johann was 3, he discovered his father's big violin and twanged at the strings with his tiny fingers. But Father Strauss was furious when he found out about it. "But why are you so angry?" asked Johann's mother. "That boy is a born musician. I just know he is." "Music is not for him," was the answer. "I don't want my son to have the difficult life I have had. Music takes everything and gives nothing." Yes, believe it or not, the father of the Viennese waltz did not want his own son to become a musician. But Johann's mother realized that her son was a musician at heart, and she encouraged him. She helped him with his lessons, and then there was that one memorable day when Johann was 6, and his mother took him to visit his grandmother. There he saw his first piano, and became very excited to hear the music when he touched the keys. Johann earned the money to pay for his music lessons by teaching a girl smaller than he was what little he knew of the piano. Mr. Amund, who played first violin in Papa Strauss's orchestra, gave Johann secret lessons. Violin, harmony, counterpoint, the little Johann learned more and more each day. It was a wonderful secret. Johann's father was composing a polka, and he was having great difficulty in putting a coda, an ending to it. Little Johann, trembling in his shoes, suggested an ending which, to his father's surprise, was very good. But instead of complimenting the boy, his father shouted, "Go back to school and study your lessons. Learn to be a butcher, a baker, anything, but don't waste your time thinking about becoming a musician." Art and songs of Vienna were an inspiration few could resist. No matter where you were in the city, the waltz, the mazurka, and the polka pursued you. To the little tables under the illuminated trees, where families gathered to drink the May wine and gossip, to out-of-door cafes and music halls where the Viennese danced. No wonder young Johann Strauss ate, drank, and dreamt in three-quarter time. And no wonder that one day the Viennese read this in their morning newspapers. Announcement. Announcement. Invitation to a soirée dansante, which will take place on 15th of October, 1844, even in inclement weather, in Dormeyer's Casino in Hitzing. Johann Strauss, the son, will have the honor of directing his own orchestra for the first time, and in addition to various overtures and opera pieces, he will perform several of his own compositions. Johann Strauss, Jr., in his first public appearance. It seemed as though all of Vienna wanted to be there. People said it was more difficult to obtain a table at Dormeyer's than a seat in the English House of Lords. Johann's father was very angry indeed. He'd show his son he would not be disobeyed. And so Strauss Sr. sent two friends to Dormeyer's with instructions to stop his son's debut at any cost. The audience jammed inside the doors expectantly. Would the young Strauss be a musical match for his father? The moment came. The 19-year-old composer leaped upon the podium with easy grace and faced the crowd. Tall, handsome, his dark, deep eyes roved over the hall and smiled in recognition at the two friends of his father's at a table in the corner. They averted their eyes. With charm and assurance, Strauss tucked his violin under his chin. The beat of the bow, 1, 2, 3, the music began. Johann Strauss was a tremendous success. Applause after the first number. After the second, the third, the fifth, the 10th, the audience went wild over his own compositions. Finally, when he played Rhine Tales of the Lorelei, written by his father, the young composer brought down the house. 19 encores he was called back for, and when it was over, Johann Strauss was cheered and lifted off his feet and carried about the hall. Carried on the shoulders of the very two men sent by his father to stop the performance. They looked at Johann and grinned. Yes, laughter and happiness was in the air. On that famous night, the Waltz King was born. Think what wonderful days those must have been, with Strauss, Mendelssohn, Schumann, and Liszt all composing about the same time. But incredible as it may seem, very little of their music was heard in Vienna. It was the polkas and waltzes, the popular tunes of the day, that captivated everyone. They had a new hero and his new music. They wanted no more. Winter, spring, summer, and fall, the Viennese people crowded into the Prater, their beloved park. The air is cool. The clatter of horses' hooves sounds clearly as a carriage rolls by, driven by a cockaded coachman. And after sunset, the light disappears from the top of the distant hills. Nearby, but out of sight, flows the Danube. That peculiar glow in the air, and somewhere, always somewhere, a band is playing a waltz. Strauss was only 24, but the music poured from his pen. Soon other countries and their people wanted to hear him, so he toured Austria, then Poland, Germany, and Russia. His playing bewitched the continent. And then it happened to him. The king of romantic music, he became bewitched. She was a beautiful Viennese woman with dark hair and warm eyes, whom Johann met and married. Henrietta Trentz. Yeti, he always called her. And it was Yeti who inspired Strauss to write so many of his melodies. Wine, Women, and Song, Tales from the Vienna Woods, Artist's Life, and this one, Wiener Blut, Vienna Blood. The year he married, Strauss was appointed conductor of the court balls. These were the most magnificent events in the social and diplomatic world, and were presided over by the Emperor Franz Joseph himself. Balls of all kinds, the state ball, the birthday ball, the masked ball, all were the talk of Europe. Everyone who was anyone went to a Viennese ball. No matter what the occasion, or in whose honor the celebration, Strauss wrote a new waltz, a new mazurka. He would name a composition for anything or anybody he liked. You might call Strauss, a kind of musical historian. For some of his waltzes bear the names of historical events. The discovery of electricity. The telegraph, for instance, gave Strauss the excuse to write the Telegram Waltz and another, the Telegraph Polka. He wrote the Electromagnet Waltz and even the Explosion Waltz. With the visit of the great singer, he wrote the Jenny Lind Waltz. At the request of the Press Club, he composed the Publisher's Waltz, and another he named the Morning Paper's Waltz. And here's the funny name Strauss gave to another of his waltzes, the Accelerations Waltz. But no matter what Strauss called his waltzes, whenever he played them, people remained at the dance halls swaying to the music, applauding him on to all hours of the night. Sometimes it got so late that Strauss would invite a few customers to spend the night with him. The management at one of the casinos even had a bell installed to ring out a warning to the dancers the last trolley home was about to leave. And I saw thee rich in sorrow, and I saw thee young and fair, by the Danube, by the beautiful blue Danube. These words by the Viennese poet Carl Beck were the beginning, the first inspiration that led Strauss to compose the most popular waltz the world has ever known, the beautiful blue Danube. Danube. How did Strauss manage to write such an extraordinary waltz song? Well, for one thing, he lived music. Thought of little else, day or night, wherever he was, at home, awake or abed, out walking, or even while talking to friends. Anywhere, anytime, melodies came to him, which he jotted down on scraps of paper or even on the cuffs of his shirt. There was one awful moment when a musical idea which Strauss had scribbled on his shirt front was almost sent to the laundry. What Strauss rescued from being washed away that day was this theme from the beautiful Blue Danube Waltz. A year later, Strauss introduced this wonderful melody at the Paris Exposition, and almost overnight it became a world favorite. Even Australia, thousands of miles from Europe, heard the waltz and, like the rest of the world, fell in love with it. In France, special French words were set to the melody, and in Austria, the Blue Danube was considered almost the national song. This one work formed a new kind of bond between the two nations, France and Austria. Strauss, the hero of the kings and princes, nursemaids and shopkeepers, sat at a table at the Golden Lamp. Across from him, also sipping a glass of wine, was Jacques Offenbach, master of French light music. As they talked, Offenbach tried to convince Strauss that he should write more important music. An operetta, for instance, he suggested. Johann's wife thought the same thing, and so did his friends. Yes, Strauss should turn to bigger works. However, when offers to conduct poured in, he couldn't bring himself to refuse them. 4 concerts in England, command performances before the King of Italy, etc. So Johann Strauss traveled southward, and while in Italy, in the King's honor, he composed this waltz, Rosen aus dem Süden, Roses from the South.